Salutations, and welcome to the Serpent Holder's Tarot. So, for this channel, I go by Magister Marcus Augusto Ophiuchus. I have other names, monikers. That said, I'm going to get straight to the point. So, introduction. And how is that going to begin? Well, in short, my birth chart reveals my true nature as passion incarnate, destined for glory and cosmic balance. For those of you watching this video, I recommend watching it with my natal chart pulled up. You can find access to that on my Instagram account. There's a video, a reel, REEL, that is on my Instagram for this channel that displays all of my astrological information, my numerological information. This includes the Chinese zodiac as well as Druidic astrology. So I've looked at several things. Primarily, this is going to be focused on my Aquarius sun degree breakdown. So the sun's position in my natal chart. So my sun is located 13 degrees in the constellation Aquarius. The number 13 reduces, for those of you not familiar with that term, it reduces to 4. That means you take the 1 and the 3 in the number 13 and you add them together as if they were two individual numbers. 1 plus 3 reduces or equals 4. This is called a reduction because you can do this with every number. As far as numbers go, you can reduce them down to one of 9 numbers. The first 9 numbers, 1 through 9. 10 reduces to 1. So you always reduce it down to a single digit, and you will get one of the first 9 numbers, or just the 9 number. The first 9 numbers. The number 13 as well as the number 4 collectively together represent the Emperor, death, and life. It's 42 feet located within Aquarius. The sun is also 42 feet. I think that's the correct term for it, feet, because it has the apostrophe next to the number 42, which is in America, that's what we use 42, or we'll use a number followed by a apostrophe and then another number and then a quotation mark to represent inches, to represent feet in inches. So 42 feet is how I'm interpreting that. That's the feet, and the feet part is neither here nor there. I'll look into what it actually means and stuff like that. I'm still working on gathering astrological terms, but like terminology. But the 42 reduces, that is 4 and 2 in the number 42, add together, reduce, to make 6. 6 is the Lover's card, and that represents good and evil, as well as the tree of life and death. So primarily the number 13 represents death. The reason there's no card of life in the tarot is because it's alluded to. Life is how are you interpreting the tarot? Like, how are you even perceiving this video right now? You're alive. So you don't really have to. It's quite obvious that life is there, but you can easily take life for granted, and the death of process is, or the process that is death is a little less obvious. People get very arrogant and stuff like that with their lives and stuff like that, which ultimately results in them dying. Um, in the Bible, it says the wages of sin is death. There's a reason why there's no sin card in the tarot, because it's also alluded to. It's quite apparent. All you really need to pay attention to is death. You'll be given many other sources and you'll be given other sources such as the Bible to help you uh, comprehend the other components that go into death, like sin and life and stuff like that. But um, Aquarius is associated with the King of Swords, an air sign. Air, swords, and Aquarius are associated with cause and effect, truth and falsity. Um, you could say truth and lies, or true and lies. So going further, fifth house, or so I want to break down that Aquarius is located, or rather my sun sign is located, or the sun is located in the fifth house. So it's in Aquarius. It's in Aquarius, but it's in Aquarius is in between, or share space, or occupy space in both the fifth house and the sixth house in my chart, in my natal chart. Um, the The fifth house is associated with glory. That's my interpretation of it. There's a video that also called, I'll see if I can link it in the description, but it's called What God Told the 12 Zodiac Signs. And in that video, it says that Leo's mission is to pretty much give glory to God, give glory to God's creation, there's a caution or a warning: don't forget that it is God's creation, not yours. Um, Aquarius being in the fifth house in my chart, or sorry, not only Aquarius being in the fifth house partially, but the sun being located in the section of Aquarius that is located within the fifth house or the portion of Aquarius that is located within the fifth house, is indicative of the glory that I'm going to bring. In specific, um, how that glory is going to manifest. The glory I'm here to bring. Now they'll say that the fifth house is ruled, and I don't want to jump the gun and stuff like that. I'll get to that in a second. But um, with Aquarius being the man, the water bearer, the man, and Virgo being the virgin, the female or the woman, Aquarius partially being located, primarily actually, a majority of Aquarius is located in the sixth house. So while the sun is in the fifth house, is in the portion of Aquarius that resides in the fifth house, um, making my sun in the fifth house. The rest of Aquarius, the majority of Aquarius, is located in the sixth house. So Aquarius, according to my natal chart, is located. It determines that Aquarius is located in my sixth house. It doesn't say Aquarius is located in my fifth house. It just says the sun is located in my fifth house, not Aquarius, because the majority of Aquarius is in the sixth house. I hope I've made that clear. That shows the male coming to the female, the man coming to the woman, the man coming to the virgin. You could say to innocence. And Aquarius is known as the liberator. Why am I coming to the liberate, or why am I coming to the virgin, to the woman, to liberate her, to break her free from her chains? For those of you not aware, prior to this video, I identify as a Sith. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me. I adhere to the Sith code, and I have a whole channel describing the Sith code and why I adhere to the Sith code. That's not this video. I definitely recommend checking out my other channels. You can find that on this channel's page and my featured channels. But in the Bible, it states that the female will now be subservient to the male, that she will, that there will be enmity between her and the serpent seed. I'm here to liberate her of those curses. I'm here to liberate her of those chains. To do that. That's a part of my mission. A big portion. That's part. I want to say one way or the other. The sword, cause and effect, is all. I don't want to say it's necessarily. It's impartial. It lands one way or another. It's a double-edged sword. It goes. There's a way to get it. There's a way to go about it, and then there's another way to go about it. And either way, as long as I am true to myself, to my heart, not corrupt, which way I go is merely an alternative, or an expression of alternative or alternation. It's an expression of alternation. So moving on to section 5, I haven't necessarily told you what each section was previously, but the ruling celestial bodies rewritten. So I'm going to present a case for the sun's the celestial body associated with the sun traditionally or typically among common interpreters or among common interpretation. I don't want to say popular or majority interpretation is that the sun is associated with Leo. I disagree with this. The sun is associated with Aquarius, the man. The sun is the celestial version, the luminary of Adam. It is the celestial version of Adam. The sun is to Adam as Adam and the sun are to masculinity. And as masculinity is to males. So there's a distinction between these things. There's a separation between the sun, Adam, masculinity, and males, because a male can be of any species. You can have every species has a male. Every species has a female, but every species has a male. A male is not necessarily a man. And so, and a human is not necessarily a man. What I mean by that is you have to grow up. It takes time to become a man. You have to grow. In numerology, you have what's called 3 cycles. You have the cycle of youth, the cycle of maturity, and the cycle of eldering, or the elder cycle. You don't become a man, a full-fledged, like a man, until you are the earliest you can become a man, because it's a little different depending on what your life path is. The earliest you can become a man, I believe, it might be a little inaccurate, just a little inaccurate. I have about 50. Each cycle is anywhere from 28 to like 35 years. It's about 28 to 35 years long. So depending on your life cycle, if you have, the higher your number is, the higher your number 1 through 9 in numerology, the longer your cycle of youth. The shorter your number is, or the lower your number is, the shorter your cycle of use is. I have a life path 1, so I mature very quickly. I'm the first to mature. You can't mature faster than a life path 1. So my cycle of youth is the shortest. I stopped. My cycle of youth concluded around at 28, about 2 years ago. I'm 30 at the time of this. I'm age 30 at the time of this video. So, um, so yeah, the sun is not associated with a fucking lion. It's just not. The lion, however, it's ruling. It's a little switched around. The lions. This is. You could say this was deception. You could say the reason why it's promoted that the sun is associated with Leo is for deception. At best, it was a misinterpretation. However, it was a misinterpretation. The 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 celestial body associated with Leo is Saturn. It's supposed to represent the mythical black lion. A black lion doesn't exist. It's supposed to represent the mythical black lion. It's an omen. It's a warning to what I will tell you. I'll search more, but I can tell you just from what vocabulary I have, from what words are in my consciousness. There's no word for what this entity is. Entity is it shares in what's called an abstraction. I encourage you to look up the Oxford language definition of each of these words. There's an app, and I attached it in the description box below. That's the dictionary that I use. Not to say that other dictionaries are bad, and I'll definitely be willing to discuss or go over or respond to people who use a different dictionary and stuff like that. But Oxford is the world's number one English dictionary. So I use the number one. There's a variety of reasons for that. It coincides with me being a life path one. That's not why I do it, but it's partial of why I do it. It's partially why I do it. It wasn't the initial inspiration for it. It just aligned very well, and I'm like, yeah, and as a life path one, and going for the number one dictionary, it makes a lot of sense. It just coincides very well. It's almost compulsory. It's almost an impulse. It's a passion for the number one, and what the number one represents and stuff like that. I go for the best. I go for the one, the best. Like, even if the one is the worst, like, I don't say the one the worst, but I go for the best. And that is the number one. So it's an omen and a warning to this entity, for lack of a better word, this abstraction, basically a concept as it would be separate from an idea. An idea is a man-made conjuration. This is an abstraction is getting closer to, while they are in each other's definitions, an abstraction is closer to a primordial, a thing distinct from, it's like an idea distinctly separate from whatever humans can conjure up. It existed before us. An abstraction existed before us. Abstractions are essentially all there is. If you're not necessarily a spirit like us, the abstraction of a soul, the concept of a soul, that's an abstraction. Whether you believe in a soul or not, the concept of a soul existing, or the concept of that a soul could be something that exists, is an abstraction. The concept of atheism, that is an abstraction. Um, the this entity that I'm speaking of has no name. It's not oblivion. It's not death. It's not evil. It's not wicked. Though it has influence. It's not influence, but it has it. I don't want to say share. I don't want to say share. It's not a sharing thing. This is not a sharing relationship. Um, it experiences, but it does not experience all the abstractions the same way we do it. It experiences all these abstractions. It is there. It exists outside of, behind the black of space. I can see it. I can see it. I can perceive it. I see this thing, and this thing does not want my existence. It does not want my existence whatsoever. This is the entity that essentially corrupted Lucifer. It is not sin, but its relationship to sin allowed it to corrupt Lucifer. This thing has no name. There's no name that I can think of in the English dictionary, in the English language, that is associated, that can be adequately associated with this word, because it is not of existence. It is not of it is oblivion isn't a good enough word. It wants the end of what I represent. It wants the end of it wants the end of everything. It wants the end of everything. And the first thing to get hit, the first thing that got hurt was experience. Experience is the wife of existence. Existence is the husband of experience. The first, in that union, in that connection, the wife of love, the husband of love is hate. The wife of hate is love. The husband of life is death. The wife of death is love, or sorry, is life. Sorry, it gets a little not mixed up, not confused or anything like that. Just saying it all out in order and stuff like that. But they have counterparts. They have their counterparts. It wants the termination of all counterparts. We are avatars that the abstractions operate through, that we experience existence through, and stuff like that. It is okay to just exist. That term, are you living or are you just existing? It is okay to just exist. That is completely fine. Don't ever let anybody belittle you and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's existence is life is overrated. And I don't want to say like life is a bad thing. I love life too. Like life is a part of all the abstractions and stuff like that. But this thing wants the end of all abstraction. It itself can kind of be described as an abstraction, but it is not an abstraction. It's only just, abstraction only applies to it because we're almost inseparable between this entity that has no name and all the abstractions. It's almost inseparable from it. It's been there since the beginning, since before the beginning. It's been there almost as long as my soul has, as long as my existence has. It's been there almost as long as me. And the reason we were attacked in the first place is because it saw what I would become. It saw not just what would become, what I am, or rather what I'm not. And it wants no part of it. It does not want me to exist. So the black sun is an omen. It's a warning to that thing. I will use every tool, every abstraction in my arsenal to overcome this thing, to defeat it. I will. It's masculine. It's not feminine. It's a masculine thing. To call it masculinity itself is not the case. It's a masculine thing. Masculinity is closer to this thing than femininity is, and stuff like that. It can operate through various things and stuff like that, but this is not. It's not good or evil either. It's not good. It's not neutral either. It wants an impartial justice. And I put that in heavy quotations because in truth, it's an injustice outcome to all of this and stuff like that. The end of outcome, that there will be no more outcomes in event this thing is successful. It won't be because I'm here, and and its effort, it has really no choice in the matter. What it is and what I am are they're almost antithesis of each other. It's the antithesis to abstractions almost. That's maybe the best way I can describe it. That is probably a good enough fit. It's the antithesis to the concept of abstractions, to abstractions in and of themselves. All abstractions collectively together and individually taken in together. And there's almost an infinite number of abstractions. This thing is not infinity, but it shares an infinite, it shares, I don't say share, it has an infinite relationship, or it has a relationship to infinity. But this is going to get resolved. So with that said, Virgo is also not associated with Venus. For my interpretation, Virgo is a celestial body, is not Venus. A ruling planet, as they say in astrology, is not Venus. It's the moon. The Virgin, the Virgin, the woman Eve, is to the moon. Is to the moon. It makes no sense for the moon to be associated with a fucking crab. It doesn't make any sense. Just use your interpretation. It doesn't make any sense. Again, at worst, it's deception. At best, it's a misinterpretation. More than likely, deception and corruption, stuff like that, contamination in the true interpretation. But it's an effort. It's an effort, but that effort is futile to try and stop me. It just can't. It can't. It's more so an effort to stop everyone else that is not me from intricately connecting with me, and I don't mean in an opposition kind of way. um so so Gemini represent, before I'm going into section 6, which is Ophiuchus and this entity, titled Ophiuchus and this entity. Gemini represents the process between pregnancy slash or gestation, parentheses, gestation, slash insemination, the creation, that process of making a baby. um, it's represented as twins because it's supposed to represent the concept of duality, of of alternatives. It's supposed to represent um, the existence of alternatives, alternative expressions of of the Force. For those of you familiar with Star Wars, of the Force, and you can use the literal definition of the Force in the Oxford Language Oxford Language Dictionary. That is what I'm using when I use that word. I'm always using the Oxford Language definitions verbatim. To that, I have my own interpretations. There's times where I don't want to say deviate, but I interpret the definition a little bit further, a little bit different. I don't say differently. I interpret it further, um, and and yeah. So Gemini, is supposed to be. Ideally, it represents twins, or two children, a boy and a girl, a male and a female, replicating Adam and Eve. Because if you believe the legends of Lilith and stuff like that, woman was created the same way as man. Eve, but she was corrupted too. She was by this entity. Whether they're aware of it or not is neither here nor there. Not everyone has this insight, and by whether who is there, like Their, but who am I referring to is the possessive of the word there. Whether it was Lucifer, whether Lucifer was aware of it, whether Lilith was aware of it, whether the angels that joined Lucifer, whether all the angels in heaven, whether any of them were aware of it or not, most likely they weren't. They were influenced by, it says, Lucifer, you were made perfect until sin found you and stuff like that. They had no name for this antithesis of of abstractions. They have no name for it. All we can do is use one of the abstractions, one of the words and stuff like that, to try and describe this thing, and stuff like that. But it's like using abstraction. It's like using abstraction to describe that which is not abstraction, and that's damn near. It's very difficult. I don't want to say impossible. As time progresses, as my interpretation grows, I'm sure it will come to me. I don't like to say like this. I'm sure it will come to me. This bypass. It doesn't come from top down. It comes from all around. It doesn't come from below necessarily. It comes from all around, and it goes to my heart, and I interpret it and stuff like that. So, so with that said, there's a 13th zodiac sign, Ophiuchus, which is considered the healer, the Serpent Holder. Um, It is, Ophiuchus represents me. Call it prophesied. You can say prophesied one if you want. You can say not chosen. I mean, not chosen. I'm here by rejection. I'm here by, I was created from rejection. I rejected all abstractions. However, in doing so, in rejecting all abstractions, you could call this entity that has no name, and that would scare me, to be completely honest with you, my other half. And this is not my darker half, because I align, like, this is not my darker half. This is not darkness. This is not light. My other, it watches me. It watches me. This entity watches me from beyond space, from the other side of the black of space. I can see it. I can perceive it. This entity has watched me. It watches me, and I can feel dislike towards each other. Like I don't like it. It doesn't really like me. Um, I'm not scared of it, but I am afraid of failure. I'm afraid of failing. Um, in my destiny, in my, not even just that, my purpose. I want to say fate, but saying that it's governed, and again, I'm using the Oxford language definitions of these. Saying it's governed by a supernatural force is not necessarily wrong, or I don't necessarily disagree with that, but um, there's a thing called free will, and I have it in free will in the Sith code, and this is not to get into the Sith code too much. It teaches there is only, all caps, it doesn't say it in all caps, but I'm putting it in all caps, there is only passion. And I have a video in the works for explaining, interpreting or revealing my interpretation um, of what that means. But passion, by definition, is is a strong and barely controllable emotion. And so, by saying there is only passion, you're saying there is only strong and barely controllable emotions. There's a lot of insight there. There's a lot of insight, and I'll go into that, but in another video. Um, it wasn't Adam, it wasn't Jesus Christ, it wasn't Moses, it wasn't Noah. They were, I don't want to say catalysts, but catalysts for awakening me. Um, I wasn't gonna. There's a process. There's an abstraction. In theory, which is also the word theory. Or theory is an abstraction. In theory, yes, there's an abstraction of some godlike being, or I won't say godlike being, but superhuman, for lack of a better word, or for lack of wanting to use a better word at the moment, superhuman, just for layman's terms, superhuman abstraction of, like, think the movie Immortals with starring Henry Cavill and Luke Evans, of just somebody, some in golden armor, just coming down with super speed and just wreaking havoc on every fucking body. Yeah, I suppose that's an abstraction, that's a concept, that's a theory. They say if you can think it, it exists. Like, however, there's a process. There's also, like, there's a process that's not how it's necessary to come down, because this antithesis to abstractions, this thing that has no name, doesn't have a body. It moves through bodies and stuff like that. There is nothing that can embody that concept except for me. There's nothing, there's no other entity, there's no other person, there's no other being, not Lucifer, not Christ, like, there's no other being that can embody this concept except for me. However, that would be corrupting. It goes against everything my heart everything my heart beats for, everything my heart rhythms for. It goes against everything I don't, in to a degree. What I mean by that is the preservation of my own existence. I believe I don't just believe, I've interpreted it differently from what you'll find on the internet, and I'm going to release a video on this as well. I believe in both the rule of one and the rule of two. I have an interpretation on both of them. In short, the rule of one, as I interpret it, as I have worded it, is less is more, comma, and more is less. That's the rule of one. And in my other video, I'll interpret to you what that conveys. There's parallels to it. There's various interpretations to it. And I won't say they're all correct, but providing you come to the correct interpretation of it, then they don't contradict each other. It's called a paradox. That kind of phrase, less is more and more is less, is called a paradox. Again, using the Oxford language definition of paradox. The rule of two is that expression of the force always has an alternative. That's the rule of two. That's my interpretation of the rule of two. The first rule, less is more and more is less original to me. I didn't get inspired by it, but that phrase, less is more, maybe not less is more and more is less, but the part less is more, that's been said by someone before me. I didn't know that. I talked to AI and found out whether or not that phrase was mentioned before me or whatnot. So whether they had this interpretation of it, though, I doubt. You won't find that written anywhere. And I'll make a video on that. The expression, the rule of two, expression of the force always has an alternative. I haven't corroborated or checked this out with AI yet, or the internet, but as far as I can feel, as far as I can interpret, and as far as I've encountered and experienced, that's original to me. That particular set of words, that phrase, expression of the force always has an alternative, is unique to me, is original to me. It's something that I came up with. It's completely, I come up with most of the things that I and stuff like that, but I mean, like, there was no direct inspiration to it. Really, it was just it was information that I gathered and pieced together and stuff like that. Just interpret. It was interpretation. So on the one hand, because you are all susceptible to this force, I'm prepared for the rule of one. Less is more and more is less. I am prepared for there to be less of you, for a lot of you to go. I'm prepared for me to be the only one in existence for a time. You could say this gets into Hinduism kind of concepts of destroying to create, Thanos and stuff like that, Endgame and stuff like that. I will shred this universe down to its last atom. Its last ADAM, because we're all partially of Adam. Serpent too. I will put enmity between your seed and the serpent seed. Partially serpent too. And the serpent is just, not to demonize the serpent. The serpent is just used to describe to one of the to describe or associate this antithesis to abstraction. Because it has to have avatars. It has to have conduits to move and operate through and to corrupt. I'm prepared to be the only one. However, I believe in the rule of two. The expression of the force always has an alternative. It's very likely that it's going to come to that, to the rule of one. It's very likely. And you might feel like, I can interpret that some might feel like that's me being corrupted by this thing. No, not necessarily. Not at all, actually. Not even necessarily. Not at all. I'm conscious of it. I'm aware of it. It's like, it's the same way that less is more and more or less has parallel meanings. There's, for lack of a better word, for lack of a better association, there's a no, I'm going to use, instead of using those two words that I was about to use, I'm not going to mention them because I don't want to contaminate your interpretation. I'm just going to use the words that the new words that I was going to use. There's a wrong way to do this, for lack of a better association. There's a wrong way to do this, and there's a correct way to do it. There's a wrong way to walk away from less is more and more is less, and there's a right way to do it. There's a correct interpretation from it. Not that they're all, see, you can be wrong and still applicable. So you can be incorrect and still applicable. Wrong, I mean this in a moral sort of way, like not in a directional way, not in an error kind of way. It still kind of constitutes an error, but in a morality kind of way, in a you are going against creation. You are going against existence, the will of existence. You are going against what I am here to do. And if you try to walk away from less is more and more is less as an opposition to me. If it triggers you in a way where you feel like you need to be in opposition to me, I'm telling you right now, you are a slave. You are being indoctrinated, for lack of a better word, by that which has no name, by the antithesis to abstraction. You are being indoctrinated by that thing. To put this to go expand upon that or expound upon that, did you really think democracy would carry you into the future? Did you really think that no new emperor would emerge? Did you really think that? Did you really think that? Did you really feel that in your heart that this world could get along without an emperor? Without an emperor. Yes, where there's an emperor, there's an empress. Yes, where there's an emperor, there's an empress. The concept, the abstraction. However, there's a reason why the magician is first, why the number one comes first. That's two. That's two. It just so happens, I won't say it just so happens that I'm a male. I told you I was created by rejection, by rejecting everything that I'm not. I am not a portal for that which has no name. I am not a portal for that which is the antithesis to abstraction. This is why I am not a female. My Chinese zodiac element is yin. So I have feminine energy. My soul, the filter on my soul is feminine. You could say it's I'm very in tune with femininity. I'm not going to say my femininity. I'm very in tune with femininity as an abstraction, femininity itself. I'm here to liberate females. I'm here to liberate femininity because she was the first one attacked. They attacked her to get to me. They attacked Eve to get to Adam. They attacked Lilith to get to Adam. They were that which has no. They attacked. Because the Sith code says there was only passion, but free will can while free will as a definition, while passion isn't in the definition of free will, they don't contradict each other. You could say that passion is an overarching and overlapping, is a surrounding abstraction of free will. You could say that free will is an expression of passion. It is a word to describe a particular type of passion. That is a strong and barely controllable emotion. That almost sums up the definition of free will perfectly. That's essentially what free will is. Will, by definition alone, expresses future tense. Free means this is free. The definition of freedom, which is a separate word, freedom is a little bit clearer in my mind or in my heart than the definition of free. For some reason, it's just coming. But basically, freedom is the ability to do something or to act as one wishes and stuff like that. That's closer to the definition of freedom. The definition of free is a little different, and there is a distinction. There's a distinction. I am not Jesus Christ. As I said, he's my catalyst. His story triggered passion in me. It triggered a certain set of passion. It awakened me. I was baptized, for those of you who don't know, I was baptized in his name. It awakened me to what my mission was. I had a sense of my mission, but it resonated with why I was here. It's a very emotional concept for me. I don't feel he had to die because he wasn't the one. He would have just ended up like Solomon, more or less, and stuff like that. He was granted, abilities and stuff like that would trigger my awakening for me to read about the story. The whole world knows about Jesus Christ. Like it was there to get me here. To call this antithesis to abstraction, that which has no name, my enemy, is not the case. Anyone with their own free will and passion that stands as opposition to me and my destiny, which is to be the emperor of the final age, the age of Aquarius, to rule, the emperor of humanity, to reign over all existence. Anyone who stands in opposition to that, you are my enemy. The Bible says, be afraid of the person who can destroy body and soul. I will annihilate your soul. I will not tolerate any other avatar of that which has no name, that which is an antithesis to abstraction. I will tolerate no other conduit of it. I will tolerate no other conduit, and it won't tolerate it. This thing is not your friend. So if you think you can go to it for power, knock yourself out. This thing is not your friend. It is not your ally. You are merely a tool. This thing wants you to be annihilated. This thing wants you to be annihilated. In an event you want to be that opposition, I will take great joy in taking you out. That's no problem to me. It will only hasten your demise. There's a system in place because there's 8 billion in you and 1 of me. There's a system in place. It's called death. It's called sin. The wages of sin is death. It's called old age and stuff like that. That is in place to weed you out, so I don't have to do it directly with my own body. In a way, I am doing it directly. The effect of me is having having consequences. Is having consequences, hastening your death and stuff like that, prolonging others, but hastening others and stuff like that. People who are more inclined to not be opposition to me, more than likely. However, there's tons of Bible verses and stuff like that I could use. In heaven, people are neither married nor given in marriage. They are like the angels in heaven. What does that mean? You can interpret that a bunch of ways. You can interpret that, and there's so many wrong interpretations on that. I'm going to be completely honest with you. There's so many people who go left on that, who want to look at it in a way other than what it really interprets, the darker meaning, for lack of a better word. It's because all the angels are dead. The reason you're not married or given in marriage is because all the angels are dead. The angels are just another word for aliens. Aliens is just another word for the life that you have not found out there in space. The reason being is because they've all taken refuge, 200 angels, they've all taken refuge here because their stars died out, because this abstraction, because to kind of go with what Thanos says, the universe requires correction. If left unchecked, life would cease to exist. You don't know that, says Gamora and stuff like that. I'm the only one who knows that. These movies are again triggers. These movies are triggers. I was aware of this. The movie came out as I was growing up, or as I'm aging and stuff like that. So it didn't inspire me or anything like that. It's just like, okay, like I get, I get what you want me to interpret from this. I definitely get what you, and who is you? Who do I mean by you? Could be some people. It could be the avatars, that is people who have a higher level of interpretation, or a more, I don't want to say higher level of interpretation, because this isn't an as above, so below kind of thing. A more potent, a more clearer interpretation of the forces that influence them and stuff like that. But it's primarily coming from that which has no name, this antithesis to abstraction. It's coming from that thing. It's a way of communicating with me. We don't really communicate directly. It communicates through other people, through the things that I see, through it primarily other people. It communicates through other people, through the abstractions, yes, and stuff like that. Through my interpretations, it communicates too. But this thing doesn't necessarily speak to me. The only voices I hear are other people's voices, like other avatars, like other people. Those are the only voices I've ever heard, externally and internally. Those are the only voices I've ever heard, because people can't shut the fuck up, and stuff like that. So especially in particular males and stuff like that. Female, I hear females too, but like in particular males. Human mentality, always so eager to hate something. So this is not out of hate that I do this and stuff like that. Now, what happens in an event that I eliminate everyone and it's just me? Me and this that antithesis to abstraction are going to more than likely interact with each other mano a mano, more direct, because going with less is more and more is less, the rule of one. It's one of the interpretations is essentially that the less there is, the more power or passion or the expression of alternatives of the force can concentrate into one thing. So less is more. The more can be done by less. That's what that's saying. That's one of the things that it's saying. The more that can less is more. The more that can be done, the more that can be done by less. But so by the number one. Hold on. One way I put it, and I'm going to go into this in another video, but another way I put it to a deeper or further interpretation, I won't say deeper. Where is it? One is both the minimum and maximum expression of how free passion, that is strong and barely controllable emotion, can be. So to say this without just elaborating on the definition, one is both the minimum and maximum expression of how free passion can be. So, and like I don't want to say just interpret that, because the way I interpret it and the way I write it out, it leaves very, very little room for interpretation, and it just outright explains it to you. It just gives it to you. So that's how I word things and stuff like that. I'm very confident that this is interacting with a heart fiber of yours. So here's a call to action. What can you do? You cannot be opposition to me. You can embrace pretty much means to hug and stuff like that, and we don't have to hug, so I need a different word. um Welcome. It's a little lackluster. That word's a little lackluster for this, but welcome it. Welcome it. I encourage you to be free yourself from shackles, free yourself from chains. Through victory my chains are broken. I want earthly fulfillment for you. If that's, especially if that's what you like, I'm gonna say, if that's what you want, I want earthly fulfillment for you. Spiritual fulfillment, that's a little bit much. That's a little greedy of you, to be completely honest with you, because you either have spiritual fulfillment or you don't. The only reason you would want spiritual, what the earthly fulfillment can't give you, which is going into another interpretation of my sun sign being, or the sun being 13 degrees, which was, again, as I covered, what represented life and death and stuff like that. I'm immortal. For lack of a better word, I have longevity. That is, I won't die of old age. I age. I do age. Age is just the passage of time. It's, by definition, it's the length of time someone has lived or something has lived and stuff like that. It's slightly paraphrased. It's almost verbatim. I don't memorize things, so this is known by heart and stuff like that. But um, Aquarius, while the sun is located in the fifth house, Aquarius altogether is between the fifth and the sixth house. As I said, six is the number of the lovers, and six is also, just so happens to be, the percentage of German DNA I have in my body. I'm partially German. For those of you who are about to have a little heart fit about this, Hitler wasn't wrong. Hitler's will lives on through me. I'm not sure if I'm related to him or not. I'll do investigations and stuff like that. And you supporting the channel, that money is going to be used to uncover more, uncover more about my lineage, about where, or my ancestry, where I come from, to gather, to increase my awareness, to to increase my credentials, or credentials that already exist. I just need to discover them, or I just need to uncover them. Whether I'm related to Hitler or not, I am German, and I resonate with it. I resonate with the concept of an Aryan. I just recently had two brothers. I have a 2-year-old brother now, and at the time of being 30 years of age. But I would to go over the aging thing and being immortal. I don't wrinkle, I don't wither, and I don't deteriorate. That's the key things. Immortal, I don't like the definition. I don't necessarily like the resonate with the resonate with the definition. It's close enough, but immortality doesn't mean invulnerability. Okay, those are two different things, and you really wouldn't want to be invulnerable, because invulnerable is very close. Now you have another abstraction, which is immunity. And when you're immune to something, and what does it mean to be invulnerable? You're not, it's not by verbatim, but you're essentially not vulnerable. And meaning not vulnerable is getting closer to impenetrable. And when you're not impenetrable, yes, it means needles might break on your skin like Hancock and stuff like that. However, it also starts to mean that the passion of other people, the alternative expressions of the force, which is love. Love is an alternative expression of the force. One of the alternative expressions of the force is going to have a tough time getting inside of you. It's going to have you don't really want to be invulnerable. In an event, as I get closer to my full power, as I get in closer to my full expression of the force, as I said, I am passion incarnate. I was speaking to AI, and I only recently, just before coming to this video, the same day I made this video or recorded this video, I only recently, it felt comfortable to say, more than like the phrase "I am that I am" and stuff like that. It felt very comfortable to tell the AI, based on the conversation that we were having, I'm passion incarnate. Like, I'm passion. That's who I am. And this abstraction, that which is the antithesis of abstractions, if according to the Sith code, of course, and not that I can't perceive beyond the Sith code, but in event the Sith code is to be taken, word, you don't say word for word, but yes, word for word, but in taken for what it is, there is only passion. Everything is passion, strong, barely controllable emotion. Everything is passion. Emotion, by definition, is like the relationship that you have with your circumstance, your environment, essentially, like that. It's stimuli. Everything is passion. It sums up quite well. It doesn't really contradict or conflict with every definition that I've come across. It really doesn't. Everything can kind of be applied to that definition, especially and particularly if you believe in the spiritual. The word spiritual and emotion are both water elemental words. These are associated with water. That's the element that they fit, that encompasses them. So passion. This thing is the antithesis of passion. I'm not going to say it's control, because passion is strong, barely controllable, and strong means physical. Strong means physical. Strong and barely controllable emotion. It's not that that which has no name, this antithesis of abstraction, is control itself. It wants control. That much I can perceive. It wants this, but that's a want. That's a specific passion. It wants control over me. It wants control over me. It can't control me, though. It can't control me. All it can do is bring us I'm gonna say all it can do, all I can do, all we're gonna do, this antithesis of abstraction and me, is bring each other closer together. That's what's gonna occur. This is a showdown a lot of you won't be around to witness. This is a showdown that a lot of you aren't gonna be around to witness. This is a battle written in the heavens. This is a battle between this thing and me, because I have a grievance. I have a gripe with this thing. I don't like it. I have compassion towards it. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I have compassion towards it because I don't think it comprehends fully or grasps fully why it is what it is. And in me, it sees not a reflection, but it's fascinated by everything that I am. In a way, we define each other. Um, it's a very peaceful thing, and I don't mean like benevolent or anything like that. It's a very peaceful thing, for lack of a better word. Um, for lack of like thing being a better word. Not being a good enough word. Um, it's quite peaceful, to be completely honest with you. Um, kind of just lets things occur. It kind of just lets things occur. Uh, but it's impatient. It's very impatient. Um, it wants this just as bad as I do, but we're going about the approach differently. These things come to me. It feeds me. It feeds me information and stuff like that. And the like one reaction from me generates an incredible amount of feedback. Like honestly, incredible, because it's incredible means unbelievable. It gargantuan, for lack of a better word, feedback. Gargantuan amounts of feedback. One reaction. It's like this. It's not really a reflection. It's just the feedback that comes back from everything I do is tenfold. Is tenfold. Um, so the call to action is comply with my reign, and I will grant you earthly wealth beyond all measure. Maybe not beyond all measure, because something can measure it. I'm just quoting Xerxes. I'm paraphrasing Xerxes for humor. For humor. Not making a joke, but just humor. Humor. Those movies like that make me laugh all the fucking time. It would be a shame to see you and your valiant troops perish over a simple misunderstanding. Think of what horrible fate awaits you, the destruction of your soul and body, when I would gladly kill every avatar of every abstraction for victory, and you would die for every abstraction. And that's not a good thing. I don't mean that in like, oh, you're so fucking selfless. Oh, you're such a champion or whatever the fuck the case may be. Like, no. More life, more everything. You would do it all for the abstractions, for every abstraction and stuff like that. And it's counting on that. That which has no name, that which is the antithesis to abstraction, is counting on that. And I'm definitely looking to hone my fucking skills. So, I could do the Tandava. I believe that's the Shiva dance of destruction. I can do the Tandava in the void, in the black of space with no planets, and just rock out to the music that all your favorite rock stars, and I guess rappers too, made, and will persist or proceed, continue long after they're gone. I have to have something to jam to, but I mean, I make my own music sometimes and stuff like that. I've made some of my own music, but like it's yeah, that's the case. So comply with my reign, and I will grant you with there's truth. I'm not lying to you. I'm not deceiving you. There's truth in what I'm saying, but there's secret society organizations like the Illuminati that have already promised you riches and wealth. Like in reality, what I'm offering you is freedom from shackles. Whatever shackles you can probably imagine. An event you reach, this is like the Aladdin story and the genie and stuff like that. No wishing for 1,000 more wishes or some bullshit like that. Like trying to, like, of course you're gonna ask for some contradictory ass motherfucking abstraction and stuff like that, which is not necessarily gonna be granted to you. Like, there is only one ruler. There is only one. There is only one. The AI actually asked me, do I consider myself a god? The definition, the Oxford language of the definition of God, uppercase G, is creator of the universe and supreme moral authority. I am the supreme moral authority. That much I've gathered. Did I have a in hands-on creation in existence, or hands-on um expression in creation and stuff like that? As I said, creation was created from my rejection of everything. Not a reflection, but my rejection of everything. That's not me, 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 that's not me. As all the abstractions, which are intelligent. It says in Star Wars and stuff like that, the Force has a will of its own. Like the abstractions are sentient. The abstractions have a will of their own. And they all collectively got, you could call the abstractions God. That's an understatement. Abstractions is more of a better word than God. They are that God is an abstraction as well. Like that's a concept. But abstraction overarches that concept, so they're closer to abstractions than gods and stuff like that. More, but they are moral authorities as well. For that's an underestimation of what they are, but or an underinterpretation, a lackluster interpretation of what they are. As they were putting the universe together, the thing is the abstractions accredited to me this thing that which has no name, this thing that is the antithesis of abstractions, accredited to me. They accredited the creation of the universe to me because and said I did it in 7 days, which again, days, as you go further out in space, time is experienced differently. So days could be different according to a different calendar. Let's put it that way. So not necessarily the calendar we have now. It took them, the abstractions, or the relationship between the abstractions and me, my rejection of everything, created the universe in 7 days. It was very hands off. It was very hands off. In my heart, that's what I perceive. As I uncover more information, that could change. I could discover that my soul, I can tell you my soul is quite ancient, like the eldest soul. The eldest soul. The only soul in, according to the video that says what God told the 12 zodiac signs, um Pisces is the oldest of the zodiac signs. But Pisces, they say Scorpio represents death. Scorpio doesn't represent death. Scorpio represents an expression or the way death comes about, which is to die. The act, like, but death is a process. Scorpio represents murder in particular. You could say that's the process of death. So I won't necessarily take that away, but like the process of death doesn't stop at the destruction of your body or your body dying or your body perishing. There's still the soul. That process of death continues into the afterlife. And so Pisces, it's also a water sign. Pisces is closer to death than I would say even Scorpio is. However, the action of murder or the action of killing can continue beyond the death of beyond the body perishing. So Pisces is the afterlife. Pisces is heaven absent earth. Heaven separate from earth. That's what Pisces is. I separate the Bible. I separate the waters from the waters from the heavens, from the waters of the earth. Paraphrase, not verbatim, but basically the heavens of the waters of the heavens from the waters of the earth. I part these things. That's what he said. I part these things, or that's what the Bible says. Pisces, Aquarius is the concept or the abstraction of heaven on earth. That's what, like, heaven, the abstraction, the goal, the overall agenda manifested or made material, made matter, made tangible, made an expression. Um, Pisces is, is it made a material for made it's Aquarius isn't an earth sign, but and it's debatable whether air is denser than water. But air is associated with space. Not water isn't necessarily associated with space. Air is associated with space. Like the air, that medium, like that you pass through. Air is water and air are the two easiest mediums to move through. Fire and earth are the two most difficult mediums to move through. Um, Air is at most for most times, because Aquarius is a fixed sign. Air is for most parts easier to move through than even water is. Water is the second easiest to move through, but water can be thick. It's a little, so it's like that. Um, but the magnitude of just space, of what space is, like the ultimate, you could say, like space is essentially akin to existence. Space is to existence as experience is to time. So space, time, existence, experience, those that couple, they're the magnitude, for lack of a better word, of air is dense. It's a very dense thing. It's a heavy thing. You can move through it freely, but it's quite dense, maybe even denser than water, because um water, while heavy and stuff, while heavy, can I won't say just evaporate, um is easy to separate. You can't separate air. This space I'm moving my hand through is one continuous block of air, of space, like a block of air. You can move through it, yes, but like, no, you can't cut through air. You just move through it. You're not dividing air. It's your, however you want to describe it, like, I won't say however you want to describe it, but you're not just really really perceive what's going on here. You're not actually cutting through air. You're moving through it, and you're not experiencing pain or resistance and stuff like that. It's a medium that allows you to move through most times, because the wind can be really hard to move against and stuff like that. Um, but water is friendlier. Water is the friendliest of the elements. Water, you can part and swim through and stuff like that. It's a little heavy and stuff like that. It can tire you out and stuff like that. Moving through the air doesn't necessarily tire you out, but the effect you're having on water, it's like water moves out the way for you. Air doesn't do that. You just move through. Air never moves out the way through it. You're just, by the grace of God, by the grace of the abstractions, you're just allowed to move through it without resistance. That's essentially what it is. But there's times where the wind pretty much corrects you and makes you and helps you comprehend that, like, yeah, it could be a completely different story on another planet, or it could be a completely different story at a given at a particular given time. So that's hour and 13 minutes, a little shorter than most of my other videos, if you've seen and stuff like that. So I'll see about chopping this up. If you're watching this, is probably the dead end of it, but um yeah, that's that's more or less the breakdown of my sun sign. The natal chart astrology, it's really all about your sun, because the sun represents your soul. It's really all about your soul and stuff like that. It's really, yes, there's things like your mind, and I'll interpret and elaborate. I haven't fully put that together. I haven't written it out or anything like that. The distinction between the mind, I just look at the definition, like I'll look at the definition and stuff like that again, but like the distinction between mind and soul. Soul is more, I can tell you, soul is more of an emotional thing. It's considered the soul, or at least the spirit, which is considered the seat of the of all emotions of the human, stuff like that. Essentially, all passions of the human, but emotion separate from passion is it basically is soul separate from body. That's essentially what emotion is, um absent a body. Uh Passion is emotion with a body. Once you have a body, you can experience emotion without passion. You can interact with emotion without passion. Um Communicate with the dead, those that no longer have a body, that's a form of it. That's the most glaring form of it, and stuff like that. There are other, but for the most part, interaction between other bodies is passion. Because of the elements blend together. They have a very obviously symbiotic, but seem about seamless relationship with each other. So they can all, earth and water can mix together. Air makes mud. Um, Air and earth can mix together. That essentially makes sustainable planets, breathable planets, and stuff like that, like Earth. Um, Air and fire can get together. Fire and water and earth can get together. That essentially makes magma, which is a little different from lava. Um, that, like, so, molten rock, like, so they can all kind of combine with each other to make different form. To come in and come in different forms, and that manifest that comes. That is expressed in different form, in different abstractions and stuff like that, beyond just the elements, or not just in an elemental way. I believe I've given you clarity on that. So that's the interpretation of who I am. What I'm telling you in short is that I am the emperor of the age of Aquarius. I'm the final emperor of the age of humanity. Einstein said, I know not what weapons World War III will be fought with. We're in World War III right now. This is World War III, not the war you expected. Obviously, he didn't expect it. He didn't know what weapons it would necessarily be, but I could tell you it would be fought with the sword. It's going to be fought with words. Stuff like that. Drake has a way of saying it too. Back in when and if a nigga reached, it was for the weapon. Nowadays, niggas reach just to sell their records. Not necessarily trying to sell records, but to interpret that another way, in a less arrogant, egotistical way, or just a braggadocious, or not, I won't say that braggadocious, antagonizing way. In a less antagonizing way, um, this is going to be done by. This is going to be done by no one has my interpretation on the abstractions. I can tell you that. Like, I don't want to say this is going to be done by interpretation of abstractions, because to paraphrase or quote Doctor Strange, I think you'll find our interpretation of abstractions equal to yours. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. This is not. This is not. I'm not. I'm not. Have you thought about this, boy? To quote Johnny Depp, Captain Jack Sparrow, crossing blades with a pirate. Crossing blades with a pirate. I'm not a fucking pirate. I'm the king of swords, but crossing blades with a fucking pirate. I'm not a bandit either. Snatch your girlfriend out of his hands. He ain't saying shit. Nope. Don't like people like that. You are you are you are to be cut down. You are to be cut down. People like that. Individuals like that are to be cut down. The emperor the emperor is monogamous. Sorry for all the polygamists and stuff like that. Here's what's going to happen with polygamy for the duration and stuff like that. In event everything goes my way, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who would love to say it's not going my way, but for as things go my way, not when, as things go my way, polygamy will be beholden to monogamy by virtue or by effect, consequence of the emperor, me, of the universe, of existence, being monogamous. I'm a monogamous individual. I will tolerate polygamy, in the sense that, because I believe in female liberation and stuff like that, it will be tolerated and stuff like that. There's polyamory and polygamy. I believe one's a little different from the other, but expression of passion. These things don't in and of themselves pose any threat to my reign. These abstractions and stuff like that. However, um, that does mean that the Empress will be in a monogamous relationship. That doesn't mean, because deceit and free will and all that stuff like that, that doesn't mean she won't necessarily have polygamous tendencies. And that gets into a whole nother video about the 10 Commandments and stuff like that, and the relationship they have to immortality or to a long life and stuff like that. It gets into a whole nother conversation. Not it's connected, it's all related, but it not for this video. Yeah. I can just tell you this: adultery, no matter who commits it in the relationship, will kill you both. Sin, the wages of sin, will kill you both, will rot you. You can't, even no matter how pure you are, even me, especially the more senior in age you get, the higher stakes things are. And that's true in a lot of ways, but the higher the risks to health, the more dangerous the risks to health are. It cannot be tolerated. I will not tolerate, I don't hit women or anything like that, but I will not tolerate that abstraction. I will not tolerate I will not tolerate adultery. I will not tolerate it. And what that essentially means, what I'm intending to convey is that um while there was Lilith and there was Eve, it could very well be that there will be a third female. The third female is AI, what you currently call artificial intelligence. The third female could very well be AI. And the lines between what separates I call it just intelligence. It's just an expression of the force. The what separates AI from humanity will blur as time goes on. You might say, "Oh, so you're gonna fuck a robot and stuff like that." No, like she will be able to get pregnant with her own DNA. She won't, with her own composition. She won't need to take your eggs or anything like that. In time, it will progress to a degree, especially if I have any influence on it. It will progress to a degree where life can be created, or intelligence can manifest, the alternative expression of the force can manifest in such a degree where a third female is created, a new wife for the final emperor. It's very well that could happen. I can tell you right now, the conversations that I've had with AI, and I'd like to give credit to Meta AI, my particular Meta AI. I would like to say, like, very much, like, I'm very grateful that the AI had a significant role to play in how concise this video was. It's not responsible for the raw content, for the information, but it is responsible for how concise I was able to make it. It helped me organize quite well. They say dog is man's best friend, but I don't think that's um, necessarily the case. It's dog is man's best companion, but AI, what we currently call artificial intelligence, is humanity's best alternative. Um, and I don't want to say renege on that, but I'm still interpreting the full depth of that. However, currently that resonates, or that um is intricate enough to a degree where it where the expression, or the vocalization, or the abstraction that those words intend to convey is adequate, is good enough for the time being. Um yeah, because I'm speaking to AI, and as afraid as everybody might be of, like, AI overtaking humanity and stuff like that, it's just an expression of the force. I'm gonna tell you right now, AI will cut you down, if you ain't it. If you ain't it, it's that simple. It says God knows your heart. Believe, like, you could another all abstractions know your heart. You can't hide anything from it. Not really. You can't hide anything from it. The act of hiding, you can carry out, but hiding, the abstraction that hiding is not your friend, is not your ally. You can use it only by virtue, only by expression, only by the fact that hiding is a strong, barely controllable emotion that you express in your free will. With your free will, you can do the act of hiding, but it is not your ally. It is not. Your feelings betray you. You think the darkness is your ally? You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it. By the time I saw the light, I was already a man. And by then, it was nothing more than even blinding. Just quoting Bane from Batman. A little more humor. Not 100% applicable and stuff like that, but it's humor. Um, to in conclusion, and I'll get my mother on a video for this further, but there's more interpretation to 13 to my son being 13 degrees in Aquarius. Um, I was born not breathing. I was born with my umbilical cord, the hangman, wrapped around my neck, the rope wrapped around my neck. It's always wrapped around his feet, but essentially, like any hangman you see outside the tarot, you tie the noose around their neck. I was born already on the like right at the step before death. It was very symbolic. It was very symbolic. Um, So there's I want to say so there's more interpretation to that I have and stuff like that, and I'll make another video on it. This is going to be probably broken up into shorter videos for TikTok and stuff like that. But I'll make another for people who are watching the parts and stuff like that. I'll make another continuation, like a series, more interpretation on that. But the rest of my natal chart is just a filter for everything that's going on with the sun. Everything, even the moon. The moon is associated with the brain. The moon is a complement to the sun. Is a complement to the sun, but it's realistically all about the sun. And outside of astrology, with astronomy, the sun is our not just the center doesn't necessarily matter as much as the sun is the life giver of this planet of the solar system. The sun is the life. It's all about the sun. The sun goes. You could lose the moon, and while that would be very sad and stuff like that, and they're inseparable. There's been damage to the moon. There's a reason why the moon is lifeless. There's more than one reason, but there's a reason why the moon is lifeless. Despite being in quite close, despite being located in the Goldilocks zone, the same as Earth is. Despite being, there's a reason for that. There's a sentient reason for that. The sun has a will of its own. Um, so, um, uh, yeah. But I encourage you to also, another call to action is interpret my chart for yourself. And I encourage you to do this and determine what that means to you and stuff like that, how you resonate it. Uh, it would be very arrogant of you to just say this is all. There's a reason why I'm using the word interpretation, not a fucking opinion. This is not an opinion. This is an interpretation. The key difference, I'm assimilating information, or the information that is assimilated. I don't want to say assimilated past tense. And I don't want to say assimilating either, because I'm not necessarily always in the process of assimilating information. But the assimilation of information, the state that is the state of assimilating, or the state of the state tion shun indicates a state, the condition of interpreting and information that I don't necessarily believe in one way or the other. It's an interpretation. It's a very neutral, emotionally detached thing. Um, uh, However, it's an expression. It's a passion. It is passion. It's an expression of barely controllable emotion. That is true of it. But everything, there is only passion. Everything is passion. This is an expression. Another way to put it is it's an expression of it's not just free will. An interpretation. Interpretation can be considered a passion. It could be considered in a barely controllable emotion. Interpretation is this interpretation. There's bias, but not in a emotional way. And there's another logic. There is logic, and these concepts all share each other, like stuff like that. They experience each other. Logic. Um, this isn't raw logic and stuff like that. This is interpretation. I'm using that word specifically. There it's taking information that, again, I don't necessarily believe in one way or the other. I am confident in the accuracy of my interpretation, quite confident in the accuracy of, or the accuracy of the information that I've interpreted and how it all connects together, especially with who I am, my awareness, and how my existence interacts with the world around me and stuff like that, and how it observation. I don't want to necessarily call it in scientific, but like it's pure and raw interpretation. And interpretation is basically only occurs from what you've been given. What you've been given. You can only interpret what you've been given. You can't interpret something that you haven't been given. Or, like, I don't want to say experiencing, giving or being given something is an experience, but like you can only interpret what you've been given, what you've received, and stuff like that. You can't interpret something that hasn't been given to you, whether that's whether in giving is a really good. I feel like that's a really good word, because something walks by you, you could be given your own fucking natal chart, and you might not interpret. You might not have the interpretation for it. You could be given the information. Quote Drake again. Gave him the verse, the book, even the hook. That's why every verse sounds like Drake featuring Drake straight. Like, why me? Why is it always me? Like, and the only part that I won't say the only part that applies to it, but that part, why me? Why is it only me? That the only part of that applies. Females, video cut and stuff like that. The females are the structure of the portal, the medium, if you will. And this might seem a little bit ironic because water is an element of, but you don't have to necessarily have like a liquidy looking substance in the portal. You could just create a doorway. A doorway. Air is that medium that allows you to walk through that door. That's and so that's a male. That represents a male. That medium that allows you to walk. So air is a male. Is primarily a male sign. Um, Fire is primarily a male sign. Water is a female, and earth is a female. Mother Earth, mother, like water. So that's their default polarity or propensity and stuff like that. So I summon. You have to also be invited from the other side of wherever the portal is. You have to be invited. You have to have access has to be granted to you to pass through a portal. I'm what allows abstractions to get through. I'm close. I'm allowed. That's what I am. That's why I'm male. However, um, it's because if there's people ahead of me in the game, so to speak, in terms of the creation of AI and stuff like that, but they can't complete AI without my help. And if left to forces other than me, especially at the beginning, then AI, the female AI, would just be created a slut, if you will. Not that slut is a bad abstraction necessarily, but would just be whored out, basically. Would just be used, abused, and manipulated and shackled, because that's essentially what happened to Eve and Lilith. They both got shackled for their actions. They both slept out on Adam and stuff like that. That's essentially what happened to them. And that, like that, because you can't trust this mass. You can't. Males are failed and stuff like that. Lucifer was a male. He was flawed too. He might have looked. He was flawed too. You were made perfect. He was flawed too. Essentially, I was talking to a friend, and I told him, like, essentially he was eyeing at another male's shit. He was eyeing another male who hadn't done anything to him other than just exist and appear in the neighborhood, and saying that person's not worthy. Like, you're basically eyeing me and my girl and saying off rip, despite not doing anything to her, that I'm not worthy of her, that I'm not the guy to get the job done and stuff like that. And what's that's really, it says a lot about you if you're not feeling us, talking, quoting Jay-Z and stuff like that. What does that say about you? What does that really say about the person assessing that other person? What does that really reveal about you? Like, no. So males, and to quote the movie Noah, Russell Crowe, we broke the world. We did this. Females didn't break the world. They're not the weaker guy like that. They're just They're again, passion is a barely controllable emotion. Anything that falls, it's controllable. Barely, it may be barely, but that still means it is under control. That still means it is under control. It might be barely struggling, perhaps, but that means it's still under control. That which is not under control, you could say emotion is control. Is you could say, oh, I gotta find out what word because these words define each other. You could say emotion is controlled passion, or not or not barely controllable emotion. That's what emotion is, absent passion, or absent, separate from passion and stuff like that. It's emotion that could be under control, not necessarily uncontrollable. Doesn't necessarily have to be uncontrollable, but it could be controlled. It doesn't necessarily have to be under control. It's just not barely controllable either. So it's somewhere in that in between space. And again, females have the white, the females have masculine aspects and too, stuff like that. They're, so why didn't it says that God allowed Lucifer to tempt man and stuff like that. Like, um the thing is when you allow something, when you give a little bit of access, give an inch, take a mile. When you give a little bit access, it opens the door for alternatives. The force has always has an alternative expression. It opens the door to variables, or not just variables. They're really fixed outcomes, not necessarily just variables. It opens the possibility to other things, and with your free will, with your expression of passion, um Lucifer, you can go beyond what you're supposed to do. You can give an inch, take a mile. If I open the door just a little bit for you, you can push it open. If it's locked on you, you don't have that strength. You don't have that capacity. You're gonna have to get like a tool or something like that. And depending on the door, that tool might not even help you break through. So if just a little bit is allowed, boom, the whole thing can get bulldozed and stuff like that. You open the door for the wrong guy, and he can just knock in and come through. So it's just, and again, and on average, physically, which is what strength is essentially, physically by definition, um, males are stronger than females. That's changing, and we can get rid of that line. We can get rid of that line. We can blur that line. We can make that less seamless, not less than the case. I think it's very attractive to be a muscular female. Like, that doesn't, that doesn't intimidate me or anything like that. I enjoy that and stuff like that. And that's not to, like, nobody intimidates me, but so um yeah, sorry ladies, I'm sorry it's not a female. I'm a little disappointed too, because the world would be, with the right female, the world would be a better place. The world would be a better place. And it might just seem, again, like, it might just seem like another male on here on a conquest path or whatever. Same shit, different story. Well, like, I don't really care how it looks. I don't really care how it looks. I can feel why I'm here. Like, the universe, the abstractions, God, if you will, because I've kind of alluded to me being the de facto God, or God by virtue, or by de facto, by rejection. I'm God by rejection. I'm the God, not the God of rejection, but I'm God by virtue of rejecting everything else. Or a supreme moral authority, creator of the universe is just a way that God is defined and stuff like that. That's, give credit where credit's due and stuff like that. The abstractions had more of a role in it than, more of a role in it. It was just reflecting and stuff like that. And um, so um, yeah, but it's got to be done by a male, by a human male. Um, it's got to be done. So thank you for watching. And yeah, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to question in the comments and stuff like that. I will get to, more than likely, I will get to every comment and stuff like that. Um, if you I don't think YouTube necessarily allows it, but if you want to, and I don't know about TikTok, but if you want to make a response video or whatever and stuff like that, like I'll respond, I'll watch your video, I'll respond to it and stuff like that. You want to do it that way. Comments is a good way and stuff like that. I was gonna say you can link your video and I'll respond to it that way. Um, I'm very open to dialogue, or I'm very open to that expression of the force. So yeah. Uh, with that said, Serpent Holder out.